Welcome back, everyone. I get to do it again. I got to do it like a week or two ago. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to respond directly to a question from the comments. Is the Jetboil worth it? We're going to talk about the Jetboil as compared to other canister stoves, and the Jetboil for kayak camping, and the Jetboil for backpacking. Let's go. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Super good to see you. Someone left a comment asking if the Jetboil was worth it. And I wasn't sure if they were referring to the Jetboil in terms of was it worth it for kayak camping or just was it worth it in general. I am a big fan of the Jetboil. I don't own one at the moment, but we're going to talk about why I don't and what I own and things like that. We need to do a little breakdown of different stove types first. So if you watch this channel, if you've seen the adventures that I do, you know that I am a big fan of the MSR Whisperlight. There are 3 versions of the Whisperlight. Most of them are liquid fuel, but there is one version, the Universal, which will run liquid fuel or canister fuel. And when I say canister fuel, I'm referring to these guys, right? Super popular. And the reason they're super popular is you could just turn on the stove, put a match to it, or press a button and your stove is cooking, versus with a liquid fuel stove, you have to preheat the stove a little bit to get it running, and that process seems a little scary and you get a big flame, but it's really not a big deal. So for most of my trips where I'm kayaking, I will do a Whisperlight or a variation on the Whisperlight. I like the big burner. It's great for cooking, and on those trips, I tend to cook real food. But if I'm doing a trip with freeze-dried food, I will pack in a canister stove just because they're so quick and they're so easy. Another benefit of the liquid fuel stoves like the Whisperlight is I get better fuel economy. It's easier for me to pack a lot of fuel for a long trip. But if I'm going for a day or two and I don't want to pack real food, I might just pack one of these. Okay, so that's sort of my decision-making process on, am I going to do liquid fuel? Am I going to do canister fuel? Now let's talk about canister stoves in general. The plus side I already mentioned, super easy to light. They put out a lot of heat, super good flame control. The liquid fuel stoves don't have great flame control. They're great stoves across the board. These are a little bit harder to recycle. You can't refill them. Those are some of the downsides, but they're great stoves. They weigh nothing, a few ounces. They light really easily, as I said. They've got great flame control. Most of them have pretty small burners, so better for boiling water, not as good for cooking because you can get hot spots in your pans, particularly if you're using an ultralight pan, which is super thin. But they're super convenient, and the end-all, be-all, the most popular backpacking stove is the MSR Pocket Rocket or Pocket Rocket 2. That stove was updated about a decade ago. A decade? Maybe less than that. But the MSR Pocket Rocket was like the first out-of-the-park, huge success canister stove. I'd say probably a decade after they released it, they updated it to the Pocket Rocket 2. And then shortly after that, they released another stove, MSR did. I'm speaking backwards like Yoda now. They released the Pocket Rocket Deluxe. And the Pocket Rocket Deluxe added a couple of features that the Pocket Rocket 2 didn't have that made me say, that's a problem that the Pocket Rocket 2 didn't have it, because some competitors did. What it added was a fuel pressure regulator, which makes the canister stoves perform better in the cold. And they also added a push-button igniter, which had been around for a long time. I should say that before I did a big gear purge last year, I owned an MSR Pocket Rocket, a Pocket Rocket 2, a Jetboil PCS, which was replaced by the Jetboil Flash. The PCS is an older one. A Jetboil Mighty Mo, which I'll get to in a second, and a pair of MSR Whisperlights. So I had a lot of stoves. Oh, and did I say Snow Peak Gigapower? Snow Peak Gigapower as well, also a canister stove. So I had a lot of stoves, and I didn't need that many, so I did a big gear purge. I got rid of them. Let me show you what I kept. This is the Jetboil Mighty Mo, which I am a huge fan of, and this was released by Jetboil at about the same time as the MSR Pocket Rocket 2, but it came with the pressure regulator and the push-button igniter, which the Pocket Rocket 2 didn't have. This costs less than the Pocket Rocket Deluxe, which includes those two things. Just a few dollars more, like $5 more than the Pocket Rocket 2. So I went with this, and I got rid of all of those stoves and chose to keep this Jetboil. But when my viewer said, is the Jetboil worth it? They weren't referring to this. They were referring to this. The Jetboil Flash, which is the updated version of the Jetboil PCS that I used to have. And really, the only reason I sold my PCS was because it was really old. It was from 2006. Now, some history, if you care, if you're a lunatic like me. In 2006, the backpacking stove industry was pretty stagnant. There had not been anything amazing going on in terms of new stoves for quite a while. In general, I tell people that about every 2.5 years, you will see a major advancement in outdoor gear technology, and it varies year to year as to what category that's going to occur in. So like this year it might be in backpacks, next year it might be in tents, the next year after that will be stoves or sleeping bags. And then you'll see another in 2.5 years, give or take. If you had backpacks this year, in 2.5 years, you'll see backpacks again. If it was tents this year, in 2.5 years, you'll see tents again. And so the way that sort of plays out is every year we tend to be getting a really cool new product in a category, but we won't see new products in every category every year. And I will say this cycle was disrupted a bit by COVID. We're not seeing new gear this year. We didn't really see new gear last year. And that's because a lot of research and development went away during COVID. I'm hoping that picks up again soon. Okay, let's talk about the Jetboil Flash, and is it actually worth it? Okay, so here is the deal with the Jetboil Flash and why I really do like it. It's one-stop shopping. You walk into an outdoor store, you take a Jetboil Flash off the shelf, you pick out the color you want, then you buy a fuel canister like this guy, and a freeze-dried meal and a spork, and you're good to go backpacking. You've got everything you need. You're buying a stove that generally I think comes with a pot support now. You're coming with a pot that mates directly to the stove. It's very efficient. It's moderately lightweight. It's not the lightest option in the world, but it's one-stop shopping. It is super easy. I need a stove to boil water, for coffee, for freeze-dried meals. You're good to go. In that sense, I think the Jetboil is absolutely worth it if we're talking about the Jetboil Flash. I think the Jetboil Flash, it's a great stove. A similar would be the MSR Wind Burner. If you don't want to buy it from Jetboil, the Wind Burner is very similar. I think in that sense, they are awesome. They are designed to work with their own pots. Here is sort of the flip side to that one-stop shopping. Suppose you buy a stove like this, right? Or even something smaller and lighter than this. And you're like, yeah, I just need to boil water, but I don't want to do it in that big heavy pot. I want to get lighter weight. Well, if I buy the stove and a fuel canister, I am then free to buy whatever pot I want as long as it fits on the burner, which will be most of them. And so if you're like, I want an ultra lightweight titanium pot to put on here, go for it. I want an anodized aluminum kettle to put on here, go for it. I want stainless steel because it's durable and inexpensive, go for it. You then have the ability to pick all of the pieces and build your own system, whereas the Jetboil is really designed to be, as I said, one-stop shopping, super easy, let's go. So in that sense, is the Jetboil worth it? I absolutely think it is, assuming you don't want that added control of picking your own pots and stuff like that. So there are really very few times that I would say a piece of outdoor gear really isn't worth it. I in general don't like blanket statements like that, like this piece of gear is the best piece of gear, right? I just recently saw a video, this is the best backpacking tent. No one piece of gear is the perfect piece of gear for everyone. I think the Jetboil is great if you're just starting out and you're like super quick, I want to get out into the backcountry, I want a stove, I want a pot, let's go. But I think as you get more experience, you might want that ability to mix and match parts and build your own system. I don't think there is any one thing that is perfect for everyone. And I think over time, as we build skills and experience, our needs and our desires for outdoor gear might change. So while it might be perfect for you today, it might not be perfect for you in 6 months or a year or 2 years. That said, I'm a huge fan of the Jetboil. Okay, so that is the Jetboil worth it? And a very quick sort of overview of how I choose stoves. I hope you found this helpful. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee on Ko-fi, links down below. My books are available on Amazon, both kayaking and backpacking books, also links down below. Hit like and subscribe, I guess. That's about it. I'll see you outside. Hey, if you're still watching, thanks for sticking around. This is quite possibly the best accessory in the world. It's a scale made by Jetboil, but it'll work with any brand's canisters that tells you how much fuel is left in the canister. So after you do a trip, you know how much fuel is left in it. It's awesome. See? That one had 10% left.